Hey, well, I watched No Time to Die, the latest Bond film directed by Cary Joji Fukunaga recently, and I thought I would do a review of it, so here we go. We open with Bond's girlfriend Madeline as a child, and a man comes to her house. It's a story we were introduced to in the last film, Spectre. He kills someone and leaves, but not before saving Madeline's life. We then flash forward, meeting Bond, now retired, and Madeline in Italy, and of course they end up knocking boots. She asks him to let Vesper go, which he is willing to do, and he goes to her grave to say goodbye. Vesper, of course, being his girlfriend from Casino Royale. Shit goes down, and it's back to business. Guns, explosions, tattered relationships, typical Bond stuff, really. We get the opening titles, which are beautiful, along with the haunting No Time to Die sung by Billie Eilish. The titles end, and we find ourselves in a lab that's being raided by the bad guys, which holds a secret weapon called Heracles, named after the Greek mythological figure. The weapon turns out to be a precision assassination tool, which is actually partly based on real science to an extent, but these things usually have some basis in reality. The weapon gets stolen, and the bad guys escape, taking one of the scientists with them. Cut to, we're in Jamaica. Bond is chilling after his breakup with Madeline, and Felix Leiter, the CIA agent, asks for a meeting with him. Bond meets up with Felix and his colleague, Ash, and Felix tries to enlist Bond to help get the weapon and the scientist back. The scientist was one of the team who created it. Bond says no and ends up meeting 007. It's a story that I would be surprised if you haven't heard the gist of, so I'm not covering the 007 Bond relationship here. 007 leaves, and Bond then changes his mind and goes to Cuba after the scientist, but not before ringing them and giving him an earful, basically. So, we get to Cuba, and Bond ends up meeting Paloma, his contact, and possibly my favourite character in the film. They go to a party with some rather interesting guests who end up meeting a rather grisly end, shall we say. 007 shows up and tries to spoil things, but Bond manages to get the scientists back to Felix and Ash, who of course isn't who we think. Ash grabs the scientist and flies away, leaving us with a rather touching scene between Bond and Felix. They say their farewells, then Bond goes back to London for a bit of a bollocking, and is helped out by Moneypenny and Q, is in a rivalry with 007, etc., etc. He's eventually given permission by M to go and see Blofeld in prison, mainly to find out who the scientist is working with, and off we go to Belmarsh. Meanwhile, we're back with Madeline, who just happens to be Blofeld's psychologist and the only person he'll speak to, so her and Bond end up meeting once more, but not before Madeline is given a little mission of her own by the main villain of the piece. So the two lovebirds meet up at the prison, and it's as tense as one would expect. She starts freaking out and leaves the room, but not before touching Bond's hand, which essentially completes her mission. Bond talks to Blofeld. They both end up getting arsey with each other. Blofeld ends up in a bad way, and then Bond goes looking for Madeline. He finds her at her family home in Norway, the house from the beginning of the film. He expresses his undying love for her and finds out that she has a child. Meanwhile, 007 has permission to capture or kill Leiter's colleague, who escaped with the scientist earlier, and Bond tries to get Madeleine and the child to safety. There's a bit of a battle with some bad guys, and shock horror, he ends up losing Madeleine and the child. At this point, who comes to the rescue but 007? They go to the local NATO base and get on a plane that Bond sent for earlier when he was hoping to get Madeleine and her child out of the country, with Q and some funky tech on board, basically. There's a nice moment between Bond and 007. They're told where the bad guys are, get some toys, and go to the location. After this, it's fairly standard stuff. Lots of extras get killed. The bad guy has Madeleine and the child and is being creepy with them and so forth. Bond gets captured, but ends up escaping and gets Madeleine and the child, as well as 007, to safety. He calls in a missile strike, goes through the necessary and kills the main bad guy. However, there is a twist of sorts, and we discover that Bond and Madeleine aren't going to be together after all. They say their goodbyes, the missiles hit, eulogies are read, and the film ends. Okay, so it's been known for some time that this would be Daniel Craig's last outing with the bow tie and the PPK, but is it any good? It's been delayed at least once, so was it worth the wait, basically? The answer to that is, it depends. If you like Bond films, you will probably like this one, as it's fairly standard in a lot of ways, apart from the ending. I've given you all a brief synopsis of the story above, but of course there's a lot more detail to it, including a character who is in a unique position to keep an eye on things, shall we say. And as always, it's the little things that make the film what it is. The weapon is an interesting one and is not wholly unrealistic given today's technology. It represents a response to a changing world, essentially, as do many other elements in the film. What I liked in particular about this one, though, is how the film references the Bond series itself. One of the films in particular, in fact, as well as one of the books. Both in terms of its plot, its themes, some of the details of the plot in particular, and even some of the musical choices, which is a nice touch. There are elements of the film that have been described as woke by some, but if this is indeed meant as a criticism, I don't think they hurt the film at all, frankly. Bond has always been a reflection of the politics of the day in some ways, and this film is no different. So, at the end of the day, this is a Bond film first and foremost, and it doesn't seek to reinvent the wheel entirely. Aside from a couple of elements, it is standard, as I say. There are a lot of cliches. Its humour is a little on the nose at times, and a lot of the violence doesn't have much real meaning. As for the end, there are enough clues within the film to make the conclusion to the film an inevitable one, really. And there is definitely a sense of one door opening while another closes. The runtime is over 2.5 hours, so you will be on your ass for a while with this one, but in my view, the pacing saves it from being boring. With Fukunaga, whose previous writing and directing credits include the recent film adaptation of It and the 2018 miniseries Maniac, respectively. Equally at home directing emotion and action, at least as they apply to this kind of film. So, In short, if you don't like Bond, this film may not convert you to the series, particularly if you're not a fan of where the Daniel Craig incarnation chooses to take things. Again, it's a reflection of its day, plus a little more, which has always worked well for these movies, in my opinion, and I personally enjoyed it. Good or bad, however, I feel that it provides a nice end to Daniel Craig's tenure as the character, as well as giving us a more emotional film than Bond fans are often provided with, offering a more human flavour of the character, as Craig has tried to do throughout the films that he's been in, I think. And it ends with the feeling that Craig's Bond is a man who's gone on a journey, and while it's been an entertaining one, certainly, we do definitely get the sense that the world has moved on, and this ultimately is a film about endings and a new generation taking over. So, that was my review of No Time to Die. I hope you enjoyed it and that everybody is doing well. As always, and with all of the above being said, please like, share, comment and subscribe and all that other good stuff. And I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.